Welcome to Translation Station, brought to you by Age Medicine Management Group, powered by Boston BioLife. We focus on finding real answers and the right science-based, proactive protocols to maximize health. With AMMG, you can expect little to no insurance red tape, less stress, great patient care with longer and more relaxed visits, and a restored patient-physician relationship. Get the takeaway tools you need to add age management protocols to your existing practice and learn how to become certified in this rewarding medical specialty.
Good morning, everyone. We are live. It is Friday, April 8th, and we are live at the AMMG Training and Certification in Age Management Medicine Conference today. We are live here in Doral, Florida, and as you can hear, the buzz is all around. So we're so excited to get this conference kicked off. We'll be here all day today and perhaps even tomorrow interviewing some great guests with cutting-edge research, cutting-edge technology on what's happening in age management medicine, what's happening. We're going to be talking about brain injury, we're talking about CBD, we're talking about women's health and revitalization. I've seen some things on men's health, and that's going to be for later on in today. But we are live at Doral. It is researchers, there are doctors, there are physicians, practitioners. So if you're looking for new age management techniques, contact your physician, because I'm telling you what is out there is revolutionary. It is being proactive rather than reactive. So get in front of whatever you're feeling you need. And it's not all about Botox and wrinkles. This is really working from the inside out. Looking at what's going on inside your body, from your vitamins to supplements, hormone replacement therapy, you name it, and they have it here. They're developing even compounding pharmacies on staff right here. So we're going to get into it because we've got some great interviews lined up for you. Starting off this morning with Ring of Brotherhood. We've got Lisa McClellan and we've got, and I didn't write her whole name, but Margaret with us. Margaret, you're with the multimedia company and you are partnered with Ring of Brotherhood. And Lisa is here. Who wants to tell me what Ring of Brotherhood is?
We started Ring of Brotherhood a year and a half ago. Myself and two partners, Kevin Person and Moses Stonewall Jr., the senior partners. We have two junior partners, which is Margaret and William. So we started the Ring of Brotherhood, a multimedia company. We wanted to do a docu-series showing fighters in need, fighters that have suffered head trauma, and to film those guys getting the help they need, but also filming guys that had great careers, and that's how we started.
And why is this so near and dear to your heart?
It's very dear noise. So it was important to me to reach out, not to only get help for Daryl, but other fighters that are suffering.
You're talking about traumatic brain injury. Is he full assist? You're helping him through everything?
I live with him. I physically take care of him every day. We're going to be traveling.
What's going on in boxing?
The Ring of Brotherhood, we want to show the world that these stories actually exist and what's going on in the lives of these folks.
Margaret, tell us how you're involved with this. With the multimedia company, are you putting a docuseries together?
Well, I am the administrative director, so I handle all the business end of it, the back end, the paperwork. I'm also chair of research and implementation. One of the reasons why we came here was to find out more about how we can help the boxers, how we can help traumatic brain injury, and what options they have actually out here. And we found out a lot, actually.
I was going to ask you, what have you found that's really important and pertaining to helping everyone out?
We attended, the traumatic brain course all day, the clinics. And we found a lot about inflammation in the body and how to reduce that. And once you reduce the inflammation, then you can introduce supplements and protocols to actually heal. So it was really interesting, and it's very doable. So we're pretty excited about this. We're going to work with Dr. Gordon, and obviously with Joe, and with a bunch of other practitioners.
It's the idea, and probably the whole idea of this conference is inflammation, right? If we're going to sum it up in one word, it's reducing inflammation in our body that causes so many issues, whether it be musculoskeletal or more.
Dr. Gordon, his protocol is to reduce the inflammation. So we're going to get with Dr. Gordon Monday to talk about, I guess, starting with my brother, what we're going to do. So hopefully, if it works for Juro, we can move on to maybe trying it with the other fighters that are in need, and keep going with it.
Why a multimedia company? What are you looking at long term? Versus a non-for-profit or a for-profit saying, we just want to help them.
We do have a Ring of Brotherhood Foundation that we're putting together now, but we want to film these stories and tell them on like the major networks. So, but to also be able to raise money to help with getting the fighters stem cells, getting housing for the fighters, and whatever other treatments they need.
Well, it'll be fantastic to see the documentaries and the stories coming out, because people don't know.
No.
You see what goes on in the ring, and people's attention span, unless you're family and you love this boxer and you see the hit, you don't know what's going on after the fact. You don't see what happens down the road, and concussions and inflammation. So it'll be really nice to see, bring awareness.
Right. There are a lot of fighters that are actually suffering that, once they leave the limelight, you don't hear the stories anymore of what happened to those fighters. So it'll be great for people to see where their favorite fighter is now. Not that it's going to be all good, but at least we're bringing awareness to what has happened over the last 15 or 20 years.
Right, because we see a lot with concussions in football. We see a lot of what's happened to the players, and they're not all good stories, right? Some of these stories, and you see what happened with Parkinson's and the greatest of all time. Brain injury is tremendous. It's traumatic. And to see how it's affecting families and not just the fighter, and to give hope for families that are dealing with this, even if it's not someone who's famous and well known from the ring. There are kids that get hurt. There are accidents that happen. Mm-hmm. It's all about education and sharing the information.
Absolutely. We want to put that awareness out there, and not that we want, because we're all boxing fans, and not that we want to turn anyone away from boxing, but we want them to see what actually happens, what could happen, what's around the corner. And a lot of the guys get in the ring, they don't realize the danger and what they're getting involved in. So we want to just bring that awareness.
Did you think your brother, when he started boxing, had any idea what could potentially happen as far as the dangers and the downfalls of boxing?
I definitely know he didn't think this would ever happen. He was 25 years old. He was at the height of his career. Not just that my brother is disabled, with the head trauma comes a lot of aggression and anger, and so it's not easy to always deal with. So, and we want to show that. We want to show the world, what I've gone through the last 28 years, what the other fighters' families or wives or whatever. I mean, we even have female fighters that are suffering as well. We just want to show the world those stories.
Which is so important, and I'm so glad that you've got a multimedia company that is going to be sharing it and exposing it. So if there's anything we can do on our end to help bring awareness to the Ring of Brotherhood, the foundation, the stories that are so important, the education of our high school and young athletes, so important. 'Cause we don't get to them young, right? They don't
Right,
know, and they start
right.
down maybe supplements that aren't so great for you because you think that's what you need to do.
Right. And it's not just the ones, like you said, it's not just the ones that, the famous ones, it's so many that didn't get famous that are suffering as well.
That's true. Right? And they need just as much help. So what you're doing to raise awareness through the Ring of Brotherhood is unbelievable. Is there a way that people can contact Ring of Brotherhood for more information or to make donations?
Yes, you can go to ringofbrotherhood.com. And our email addresses, our phone numbers.
Yeah. We can put it up there, lower third. Their upper third, actually. We're going to do it this way.
So there's actually a few avenues they can do to help us donate.
Why are you so passionate about helping?
Well, I love boxing. Plus, my brother-in-law who runs Ring 10 New York,
Okay.
he's also suffering. He was a professional boxer, and although he's extremely intelligent, traumatic brain injury does not, discriminate.
Don't discriminate.
Yes.
And on the outside, it doesn't look like a physical disability does.
No.
You don't realize it because on the outside, you can look just like everybody else, and the aggression comes out, and some other behaviors come out, and you need proper treatment and guidance.
Right. We have a lot of boxers, as well as traumatic brain injury patients that don't think they have an injury or there's nothing going on there.
Right.
But you have to speak to the family and the siblings and the spouses, and those little things start coming out, and then maybe they start forgetting things or start repeating things over. So it is a process, and sometimes it comes on very quickly. Sometimes it progresses over quite a few years.
I was going to ask you, do you think sometimes the traumatic brain injury is mistaken for dementia and Alzheimer's?
Absolutely.
We have a couple fighters that are being treated
Yeah.
with like schizophrenia and that kind of stuff, and it is so misdiagnosed that they don't get the help they need because they're missing that it's a traumatic brain injury. So it would be bring that awareness and get them the correct help that they need. So looking forward to being able to do that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It was a pleasure to kick off this event with you ladies. Best of luck to your brothers and your family members.
Thank you.
And if we can do anything to support it and spread awareness, please let us know because it's so important to share the education. Traumatic brain injury may not present like you think it's going to present. It's like a concussion doesn't always present, but this is just at the higher level on the other end of it.
Yes.
So best of luck to you and your brother and your family members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick commercial break. To keep rolling, we've got a lot of interviewers, a lot of presentations to get through, so stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Translation Station, brought to you by Age Medicine Management Group, powered by Boston BioLife. We focus on finding real answers and the right science-based, proactive protocols to maximize health. With AMMG, you can expect little to no insurance red tape, less stress, great patient care with longer and more relaxed visits, and a restored patient-physician relationship. Get the takeaway tools you need to add age management protocols to your existing practice, and learn how to become certified in this rewarding medical specialty.
And we're back. Good morning, everyone. We are back in Doral, Florida. We're here for the AMMG conference. We're talking anti-aging. We're talking translation station. We're talking about anti-inflammation, helping cure patients from the inside out, from inflammation, from free radicals, from you name it. We're turning science into medicine. I've got a great partner with me working today while Freddie is behind the scenes about running everything. We've got Joseph Krieger of Boston BioLife joining us. He's on the other side of this table. We've got some great news coming to you. So, Joe, I'm going to kick this over to you, and thank you and Boston BioLife and AMMG. It's a mouthful. AMMG for having us here today. It's potentially tomorrow to learn all about what's going on here. I have to say, after the past 2 years that we've gone through, out and about in a conference with people talking about wellness medicine instead of fear and reactive medicine of what we've all been going through. This is amazing.
Coming out of the lab to combine them with the healthcare providers that are working in everyday medical practice, and try to get that information out to the patients and the healthcare providers so they can have a communication that actually makes a difference in patients' lives. So we're here with you, Dr. Mickey Barber, and I just treating patients. So tell us, why you're here, how long you've been here, and a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Sure. So I've been practicing age management medicine for almost 20 years. I originally was an anesthesiologist. Became quite ill when I was in my early 40s, and conventional medicine gave me no answers. So I had to find my own answers and basically cure myself. Once that had happened, I decided to start a practice in age management medicine and wellness, and it's been the greatest thing I've ever done.
What
Ever.
has changed anesthesiology to age management? Huge difference. But what type of practice are you doing for age management?
So we focus on keeping people healthy. So it's the preventative side of wellness. Part of the structure is looking at hormones, vitamin levels, assessing a patient's physical fitness, cognitive fitness, working on their nutrition, and pulling all those pieces together. So it is from the inside out. We do a little bit of outside in, but it's almost 90% keeping us healthy on the inside and monitoring, staying on top of things, documenting success as patients move through the aging process. So our youngest patient's 24, our oldest patient is 94.
Well, let me ask you about hormone replacement therapy. And Joe, we touched upon this a few weeks ago, HRT. There's so many different avenues of it, and it's not just for men with low T or women going perimenopause, postmenopause. Then they're talking about, you've got the pellets, and you've got the bioidentical creams, and you've got the sublingual. How do you know? How would a patient know who to go to? Which one is the best delivery method?
That's a good question, and every patient is different.
Of course.
I mean, we talk about at these meetings about an N of 1, and so every lab result is your lab result, and you have many choices on the delivery systems that would be best for you, and that's the difference between what we do and what conventional medicine does.
And Joe, why is HRT so important in wellness medicine?
Well, what they find is the root cause of many diseases is the imbalance in the endocrinology of the patient. And these things happen for multiple reasons of aging. What we call as aging can really be defined as the lack of the ability to have oxygen. It focuses on the vascular system. And some of it, they say aging is a disease. It's a byproduct of our environment. So you have your genetics, which is the blueprint. So think about you're building a house, right? So the blueprint is we're going to build this. No stronger motivator than someone that's experienced something. I can count on both my hands and my feet of people that I know that have been personally involved in this industry because they had their own personal experiences. People getting hit by lightning and being in a wheelchair and recovering and going on to be an MMA fighter. That's a real thing. People discovering proteins because they can no longer do surgery, forced into the laboratory environment, then taking that protein all the way through the process, not knowing what regulatory or pharmacological nuances were in front of them. So a lot of times it's the motivation of the individual, but this individual care plan pathway, IMN of one, really requires a relationship between the patient and the physician.
What
So
is IMN of one?
everybody's their own clinical trial, right? And the irony of a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized, multi-center clinical trial is, unless you account for the variability of the patient, it's not.
It means nothing.
It means nothing.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is to get doctors like Dr. Barber to work with patients and technology providers to do our own studies. And the FDA recently has acknowledged real-world evidence and activities of daily living, i.e. if you didn't have a surgery, you're no longer on drugs, or your behavioral shift, or you lost weight, on this floor in front of us are the multitude of diagnostic, therapeutic, and tools to calibrate and to quantify how progress is being made. So whether it's a peptide or a hormone or a body composition tool or a skin regimen or a hair restoration, there's a pathway that's specific to you and only you. It's not going to work for me or her or anyone else. Now, people are similar. You can put them into high, medium, low, or no metabolic groups. You can put them into weekend warriors, couch potatoes, elite athletes, and whatever, the elderly. Look at neuro, gut health, MSK, sexual wellness, aesthetics. Those are groups. So when you take this matrix and you consider, but really the patient has to be their own care plan provider. I think that physicians need to become more scientific, and that team has to roll out and do. We outsource our most precious resource to strangers that don't know anything about us.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. This is amazing. These are the best of the best. The physicians, the researchers, the scientists. How do we get this information to our local practitioners, to every single one of us that are looking for better health? How do we get that out there?
And prove the benefits of what we're doing.
Right, because internists aren't typically doing this. GYNs
No.
from Women's Health
No.
are not routinely doing this.
But the good news is things like this, podcasts that are out there, patients are becoming better informed. And so they are spreading the word. I mean, they're the best advertising. It's hard. It's when I first came to an age management because I know what it meant to me, and I'm passionate about bringing that to the patients. So I don't know that you can take a conventional medical practice and morph it into this because you're missing some elements.
And it depends. Sole practitioners, single practice entities like pain management, orthopedic, we're finding a trend. Healthy patients make better outcomes, and our theory is, it doesn't matter if you do your fusions or your joint injections or your hip replacements. If this patient is healthier and lives in a lower state of inflammation,
Absolutely.
and they behave in a way that's consistent with them healing, they're going to do better. So we're not an ology-centric enemy of medicine. It's just we're bolting things on, and after the pandemic, two things happened. Individual care plan pathways became more prevalent. Your immune health became more aware.
Right.
Patients became more aware, and there was a lot of misinformation or disinformation or follow the science, and I think people figured out it was really up to them. But what did we do? We modified behavior. 300 million people got a vaccine. We rapidly developed new technologies. If you told me that we were going to have a nanoparticle with a piece of nucleic acid in it, and it was going to cure us from world, damnation 3 years ago, nobody would have believed it.
Right.
That's exactly what happened.
And science has
In
been
Florida,
working
there's
on that,
drive-through
right?
monoclonal antibody stations. Unheard of. If you really know what that is. This is the most fundamental scientific component coming out of academic research. They released it from the lab directly to the clinic, and our government got out of the way. And things like emergency use authorization. What a beautiful term.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
You can do it. We'll let you do it. CLIA Labs. We're a CLIA Lab. We can do this. We can make a test.
Right.
And now the litany of tests, the accuracy of tests, and all these variants that came along. We've never studied a virus or a pathogen like this ever. And now we know COVID down, and it's a SARS derivative, right? We've had these, and we'll have more. But now people are more aware of their health, more aware of their immune system.
Yeah.
You want to live in fear and hide from the virus, wash your hands. And I'm not saying that stuff doesn't work. Maybe we should wear masks during cold season. Maybe we should wash our hands more often. Maybe we need to be more mindful. We all know people that go to work sick and get everybody sick. It's not that far. sheltering the most vulnerable, looking at other comorbidities. That's where Darwin's theories are coming into play. The sickest are getting it. The most unhealthy are getting it.
Right.
Well,
right.
Dr. Barber, let me ask you, when we're talking about anti-aging, it's also, as Joe's talking about immune system, you talked about immune system. Through what you're doing with your practice, and Joe, through what we're doing, learning here, by supporting our immune system, by making us a stronger, healthier immune system through HRT and through different modalities, do you think it's going to help us overcome future situations, overcome future significant illnesses?
I think that's key. I mean, I feel like we'll need fewer vaccines when we have robust immune systems. We will be able to protect ourselves from whatever variants are out there. When we take the genomic piece of that and add that in, then we'll know who's at greater risk. That will help us to take the right vitamins, the right hormones, in some cases the right medications, so that whatever is coming down the road, we will be fierce and be able to protect ourselves.
It's so exciting because it's not just Botox skincare.
No.
People are really taking a look at their health and their lifestyle, especially in Florida.
Yeah.
But they all have the same root cause. I mean, people losing their hair and getting AD and having, belly fat are all in the same vein.
Right.
Right?
It all
just
starts right in
manifests
here.
itself. It's like the tree puts a hole in your roof, and some people get some water in the bathroom. Sometimes it rolls down and gets to the foundation. But that's the problem. So what you'll hear is the gut-brain axis. We're looking at gut microbiome. We're looking at leaky gut syndrome. So your gut is one of the front lines of metabolism and toxins. So
It's the center of the universe, the gut. It really is.
it is, but even when you fix that, then you have to go on to all the other stuff that's been damaged.
Right.
And the good news is there's momentum. Groups like this have been out. These guys have been out here for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've only been doing this 6, but I was in medical devices for 20. And in medical devices, there was new innovation. There was new modalities. There was new imaging studies. There was better therapies, right? But I always knew the future would be biochemical, right? But we didn't have the tools. 3 years ago, you had to go to Quest Diagnostics or LabCorp
right.
to get your test, and they didn't test for things unless you test my testosterone. That's 500 more.
Yeah.
Test this.
Yeah.
So they go PSA antigen test. You look at white blood, red blood. That's not really that helpful.
No, it's
cholesterol.
definitely
We
not.
don't
But when you're doing hormone replacement therapy, should a patient get these levels done prior to treatment? Or
Yes.
are you
Yes.
treating symptoms?
Both. Yes. So we definitely look at the numbers. We want a baseline, but we don't treat the numbers. We treat the patient. And the only way you can treat the patient is by talking to them, finding out their symptoms. And sometimes the numbers, if you treat just the number, you're not going to treat the symptom. And so you have to do both.
And I think what happens is as we age, we don't know what symptoms there are because they're cumulative. So you're a little more tired, right? You're
Right.
a little more irritable, but you've got a lot more on your plate. You've gained a little bit of weight, but you're also getting older. You don't realize these might be symptoms. This is just what you think it's supposed to be.
Right. I think that there's a shift now. Well, when I became ill at 40, other doctors said, well, now you know what 40 feels like. And I said, what? That can't be true. I mean,
60.
yeah, this cannot be true. And I think there's a shift, and people are saying, wait a minute, I'm 60. I don't have to, be fat. I don't have to, not be able to sleep at night. I don't have to have these hot flashes. I mean, we're extending that curve out of what we're expecting, and that's good.
I feel like we need to move you to Florida. Joe, I think she needs her own podcast.
I love Florida.
No, I think it's great, and we encourage. One of the biggest issues that prevents is communication and understanding. And if you go to I told my primary care physician I wanted to have my testosterone checked. He sent me to a urologist. He put me on Clomid. I'm not having a baby, and that's supposed to help me raise. And I know exercise does it, and certain behaviors do it. And what I like to say is the problems are complicated, but the solutions are relatively simple. Diet, exercise. If you think about us as a mammal, right? Bipedal mammal that can reason. We need the same things that any other animal needs.
Of course.
We need protein and vegetables and fresh air and sunshine,
Sleep.
exercise, sleep hygiene, all everything. But we get away from that. We're not biologically designed to live in the world we're in. We're evolving quickly, and you see it. in the incidence of autism and other disorders that are happening to people, stress disorders, PTSD, neurotrauma of multiple kinds. So as we become more aware, we become more involved. It's really the patient and the healthcare provider, but they didn't exist. So naturopaths, chiropractors, anti-aging, all of these terms have had somewhat sketchy past because there was no science to validate.
Right,
Now there is.
Right.
Our whole goal, my goal, is to look at peer-reviewed publications, studies, and outcomes from all the leading scientific organizations around the world, because we can connect now. It used to be impossible, now it's not.
Right.
I have every peer-reviewed paper on the face of the earth in a database that I sell. It's a subscription, you get credits for it, but I want it because I want the doctors to know, here's the paper, their patient should know. Why does PRP work for joint injections? Why does hormone replacement work? What about the gut microbiome? What about your neurotransmitters? What about hormones? All these things affect each patient individually, and they all have their own influence based on who that patient is. And doctors like Dr. Barber, they're few and far between, but there's becoming more of them, and as the evidence becomes more available, then you get more of them coming on board. Plus they're sick of working in hospitals, they're not getting good outcomes, surgeries don't work, drugs don't work. Look at the opioid epidemic. Look at failed back surgery syndrome.
And I think a lot of it is they're specialists for everything. Do you think that age management physicians are going to be the next physicians to oversee all of it?
I look at us as being like the quarterback.
That's what I'm
really
thinking.
I mean, we get all this information about the patient, about their family, about their lifestyle, and we pull it together, and then we can call in a specialist if they need a cardiologist, and we're going to call in someone that understands what we're doing and all the different pillars that we bring into place to support healthy life.
The coordination of care is so important.
Oh, it's so big, and it's something in conventional medicine that has kind of fallen apart, in my opinion.
I agree.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we do.
I mean, in their defense, they didn't have the same information they have now, and they're constrained by the governance of the entity they work for.
Well, that's true.
If you're the quarterback, if you're playing with your friends, you're calling your own plays.
Yeah.
If you work in a hospital, you
I
got to
agree
worry
with
about
that.
getting sued.
But you're way too nice. Here's why. Many conventional physicians do not read. You're talking about all these peer review articles.
Yeah.
You know, every day my team, one of us will pass along an article for the rest of the team to read. I do not believe that is happening in a conventional medical practice.
It's not.
And you're trying to pay your bills and pay your staff and pay your overhead and your malpractice insurance. So sometimes not to the fault of the physician,
Right.
but to what life happens, right? But your
Right.
patient still needs a coordination of care.
Right.
So there's no reason you can't go to your orthopedic surgeon and go to your cardiologist and go to your GYN or urologist.
We're going to be watching this. The FDA has a concerted effort right now to shut down compounding bioidentical hormones.
Why?
Go to compounding.com, please, read about it, get on there, register, put your testimonials in, give some money to help the cause, but this is happening this summer.
Based
Promise.
on why? I know they're giving me a 1
Based
minute,
on money.
but wow.
Well,
All
I
right.
think that's a good message. And do you have a website that you can share with us before you head off?
Yes, it's betterlifecarolinas.com.
Well, thank you, Dr. Barber, for coming
Thank
along.
you.
And
I
all the
enjoyed
things
it.
you want to, and we'll stay in touch. Make sure you have one of my cards.
All righty.
I enjoyed your content, and I think we're going to hear more of this message as we move on because
has been
there's
a
so much
pleasure.
overlap in this, but yet you start hearing consistency and the answers come through, you know, all the different
Joe
speakers.
Krieger, Boston BioLife, Dr. Mickey Barber, Barber, Better Life Carolinas. More to come from the AMMG training conference from Doral, Florida. Stay tuned. Thank you, Dr. Barber, so much.
Thank
Joe,
you.
we'll be right back.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Translation Station, brought to you by Age Medicine Management Group, powered by Boston BioLife. We focus on finding real answers and the right science-based, proactive protocols to maximize health. With AMMG, you can expect little to no insurance red tape, less stress, great patient care with longer and more relaxed visits, and a restored patient-physician relationship. Get the takeaway tools you need to add age management protocols to your existing practice, and learn how to become certified in this rewarding medical specialty.
And we are back. Good morning, everyone. We are back from Doral, Florida at the Age Management Medicine Group Symposium Conference. I have to tell you, every interview I get more and more excited because every person that we've had the opportunity to interview is everything that we've talked about on our show for 6 years now, about being proactive, about looking at inflammation, about taking your life and your body and saying, you know what, something does not feel right. I want to be better. I want to be the optimal side that I can be. So we are here through endocrinology, and that is something rare to find, an endocrinologist that believes in HRT and anti-aging. So welcome, Dr. Lee.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege.
Joe, you want to start?
So Dr. Lee, tell us how long you've been with age management and some of the things you do in your practice and how you think it benefits you and your patients.
I've been involved in this field of medicine for about 13 years. I was in conventional endocrinology 10 years prior, and I saw the writing on the wall that this is just Band-Aid medicine and not looking at the root cause. And I attended AMMG meeting in Las Vegas, and I was very quiet about it. Kind of wanted to see what these closet endocrinologists were doing. And I came back so excited, told my wife, I saw the light and I really want to pursue functional medicine and trying to get to the root issue.
Steroid, Cytomel, insulin, metformin, look at your labs and they go on their way.
Right.
But there's so many other confounding factors and symptoms as part of these diseases.
Yeah, I recently saw a type 2 diabetic. Not that I want to see more patients, I'm super swamped, I closed my doors. But I saw a diabetic on a huge amount of insulin, and I saw 3 different endocrinologists, and I said, let's check your C-peptide, and I will basically put you on semaglutide, which is the brand name's Ozempic. Let's reduce your insulin by half, see how it goes, let us know what your blood sugar is, and I got him off all his insulin in, honestly, under a month, and he's lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
He could not even get his blood sugar with insulin under 200.
Wow.
And now his blood sugars are like under 100.
Wow.
And he's off his semaglutide, and he's basically doing active lifestyle. I encourage a plant-based diet, other nutrients to help with glucose control, and he has regained his life. He came in looking like he was gray, ashen, and it looked like his knees were ready to go into the grave. He could not even walk to his mailbox without getting short of breath. He's just doing phenomenal.
So what part of your practice that differs from other traditional endocrinologists, and I've been through many, because I talk about it all the time, it's not easy, they just send you, here's a pill, I don't like your labs, this is part of, like we talked about Joe earlier, part of being 40.
Yep.
You're going to be tired, part of raising children, you're going to gain weight.
Well, I have a wellness practice, so I optimize your hormones, but I also look at other things to basically see what issues you have. So I actually could get your biological age, see how old your cells are, see your rate of aging. I do so many different things that most conventional doctors never even heard of. We check for leaky gut, that can cause adrenal fatigue. Wow. We actually look at your oxidative stress, if you have DNA damage, cell membrane damage. A lot of people have mitochondrial issues. So you can't do this in 10 minutes. So it needs time. And then once you get that foundation balanced and you really want to get younger, yeah, I have the stuff.
He looks great for 125,
yes.
right?
And I think it's important too that we realize a lot of the things that Dr. Lee's doing didn't exist. You didn't have the ability to look at mitochondrial function. You didn't have the ability to do simple tests to measure very important molecules in your body like peptides and hormones. We didn't have the replacement tools. We didn't have the delivery systems. We didn't have the imaging studies. Didn't have mainstream buy-in from modern healthcare. But you know, you can argue whatever conspiracy theory you want. I tend to think it's more that it didn't exist, now it does. We know it doesn't work. 100 years of drugs and surgery have led to multiple epidemics, different diseases. Look at our autism rate, look at our Alzheimer's, look at our dementia, look at the things that are happening to affect us now. They're not the same diseases that affected us 100 years ago, 50 years ago. And it's a double-edged sword, because on one side we got new things to worry about, on the other side we have new tools, tests and therapies to combat them. So in the interest of fair play, what I like to say is that, okay, you didn't know it then, but now you know it. But it's really up to the patient to be able to be the one that decides to seek out doctors like Dr. Lee. He's putting his time, talent, and treasure into educating himself by going to events, surrounding himself with the people, and they're in this room right now. Everything you need to be healthy and to live a better life and a longer life. So our most precious asset is our life. The most important part of that is the quality of your life. And what good is it to live to 80 if you're in a wheelchair or you have a debilitating disease? And really, patients need to know that this is something they can do. And like you said, with the insulin patient that lowered,
That's remarkable.
and people have body fat and all these things that they worry about, and they're just like, well, there's nothing. You're not going to get that information from a regular primary care physician.
What about insurance? Does insurance cover?
Oh,
any of
I'm a
these?
fee for service, so we'll give you the paperwork, and you can submit to your insurance company. Some will be covered, most not. A lot of advanced testing is not covered. It's not FDA approved, but the science is there. So, and in regards to peptides are regenerative to basically turn the clock and to basically help you heal better and look better. The FDA wants to take them away. So I formed a non-for-profit organization called SavePeptides.org, and there's a petition, and I would love for you and your family and friends to all sign this simple petition. You could do it on your phone. You just have to put your name, your address, and basically sign it, hit click, and it will go to your representative and your 2 senators.
And can they get that information from your website?
Yes, actually SavePeptides.org, and I'm not quite sure if it's on my personal website. I should put it on there.
We'll make it available. We'll make it available to people. It's
Thank
a second now. It's
Well, let me ask both of you,
Sure,
for our viewers, what is a peptide
sure.
and why
Good
is
question.
it important?
So peptide is, like I tell my patient, it's a small little protein. It's made of amino acids. We have 20 building blocks, so 20 amino acids in our
23.
body. And if you put these amino acids together like Lego blocks, if they're over, like say, 10 amino acids in length, that's considered a peptide. If it's over 100, it's really big, and that's called a protein. So a peptide is like a small protein
Okay.
made of amino acids, and there are some natural peptides that our body produces, but we don't produce enough of it, and they are super amazing. I'm always impressed with them. There's a peptide called GHK, 3 amino acids, and it can bind to copper, and it can make you look younger. It's a
Where do
cream.
we buy that?
GHK copper.
That's funny. I love it.
I mean, I love it. I use it and all that, but they have data that shows that if you biopsy the thigh, because no one's going to biopsy the face, and then a month later you re-biopsy the same thigh with using GHK copper, you have a 60% improvement in collagen.
Everyone's going to go out and
Yes.
buy it, but that's part of this
And
conference.
the problem is a lot of like these cosmeceutical companies, they will put a little GHK
That's
copper.
the key.
Right.
So if you want GHK copper, I mean, forget the other stuff. This is great stuff.
Do you have your own line of supplements?
I wish I did.
Next, that's coming
Yeah,
next.
you see a lot of scientific discovery in this field, and really, I've never heard of that, and I thought I was pretty well versed.
Oh, it's not only outer beauty, but it's also inner beauty, because it can turn off your bad genes, like cancer genes. It's truly
The
amazing.
GHK copper,
Yeah, inner beauty, outer beauty. I love it. I use it every day.
and people who want to get this,
You
see
can call
your
my
physician.
office. You can find me. Just call my office if you're interested in GHK copper. We'll mail it. Only in the U.S., not outside the U.S.
Fascinating.
Excellent.
And I know you want to hit a conference, so you
Yes.
want to give any information, your website?
We have this website up there.
Yeah, you have my business.
All right, everything is there, Dr. Service. I have to take Medicare, I have to take insurance, I need to support my family. You realize there are other ways.
I took a big leap of faith. In
Yeah.
2008, I was in a very large multi-specialty clinic, and I told my wife, I want to do this. So I started at the worst time, the peak of the recession. Everyone was going out of business, the building industry,
Yep.
the mortgage companies and all that. And I told my wife, I just need one patient. And I did ask her, like 2 weeks before I started, do you think I'll make it without accepting insurance, going to the hospital?
It's scary.
And not knowing any doctors because I moved into this area. And she goes, I don't think so.
You're not gonna
So I still have that knife. You see the
I was
knife?
gonna
right
say,
there? Can
you're
you
still
pull it out?
married?
Thanks. She goes, I'm your wife.
Hey,
I
we
have
all
to be
need-
brutally honest.
We all
Not
need
that I
those
ever
people
talked
that
to her about
motivate
that.
us by telling us we can't do something. And you know, an interesting insurance play, and I do get contacted by insurance companies that do want to cover these things. You're going to find an evolution, and every patient is their own. They're the holder of their insurance card. So if they pay $1,500 a month for their family, that money should be able to be used. We live in a death care management system, so you wait for you get a pain in your back and you go, oh, you have lung cancer. You know, you have this. But we know these comorbidities from behavior are managed. Most diseases present 20 or 30 years after they're actually happening in the body. So biomarkers, they didn't exist. So you look at the gene or you look at the RNA, but if you look at the protein, one gene makes 10 RNA, 10 RNA makes thousands of protein. Anybody that's alive should be screening for rudimentary cancer cells because not that you have
Absolutely.
cancer, but it's all presenting along the path.
What's his name again and what's the test called?
It's HECHOC 70 protein test. He's right there.
Oh,
I'll introduce you. His name is Robert Brooks, but you know, again, he's one of these people that doesn't know any better, so he's doing it. Well, it's possible, so do it.
And the overall of this is be your best advocate. And if you can't be your advocate, have your healthcare surrogate, your partner, your spouse. If you're not feeling that well, be your advocate and do the research. And when I was talking to the physician before, she said we spend more time looking for someone to color our hair in good clothes than we do for the qualified physician to meet our needs. So do your due diligence. They are out there, people here that we can connect with.
Well, the idea is to create the collective consciousness of people working the same vein. But in the insurance world, you can do your flexible spending. You know, this stuff isn't crazy expensive. If you're on hormone replacement therapy, the setup is, but then it's like $300 every 10 weeks, depending upon what you need. And there's different ways to deliver it, and it has different effects. And but it's a pathway, right? And it's just the patient needs to be more empowered to know that they can have a role in this.
It's empowering the patient.
You don't just
which
take
is so
what the
important.
doctor says, who's may or may not know really the specifics
And
of
I
who
think
you
it's
are.
fantastic that you've taken conventional medicine and finances and you've turned it around to help the patient and still do what you love to do.
Yes, it's a lot of fun.
That's
Been a
what's
blessing.
amazing.
Yes.
So thank you
very
so much for joining us,
All
Joe.
right,
Thank
you.
you.
All right,
We're
thank
going to
you.
take
Nice
a
to
little
meet you.
commercial
Hopefully
break when we
we'll work
come
together
back.
again soon.
Sure.
More with AMMG. I'm going to get this right. I'm going to put that right there in my
Age
prompter.
Management Medical Group.
Age Management Medicine Group and Boston BioLife. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to Translation Station, brought to you by Age Medicine Management Group, powered by Boston BioLife. We focus on finding real answers and the right science-based, proactive protocols to maximize physician relationship. Get the takeaway tools you need to add age management protocols to your existing practice, and learn how to become certified in this rewarding medical specialty.
Good morning, and we are back at the Age Management Medical Group Conference. I'm going to get this tongue twister, AMMG. We are here in Doral, Florida, and this conference just gets better and better. And I am fortunate to meet a longtime friend from Boca Raton. We've got Dr. Alan Bauman of Bauman Restoration Hair joining us. Look at this thick head of hair he's got. We're talking about hair transplant and what is like us here through AMMG. It's here on the other side of the table.
And noteworthily, is that the word? We all met together at the World Stem Cell Summit.
That is
and
correct.
That's when we did the first live stream at that event to try to highlight some of the innovations coming in Bernie Siegel's organization and regenerative medicine. And Alan and I met, and we've become fast friends, and we work together and try to promote, you know, what you and I will speak to, and you mentioned, like, in the 6 years that we've known each other, a lot's changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only from the acceptance of these new technologies being actually viable and real, to the refinement and the evolution of each one of them and the combination of things. That's why I think age management is really the cornerstone of all the medicalologies, because without the fundamental biochemistry or homeostasis of the body, nothing will work long term.
That's right. You have to have the inside working well if you want to have the outside working well, and you know, obviously hair is a part of that outside. But we've got to make sure that that inside is tuned up and ready to go.
But how does a hair transplants go into the anti-aging beyond the aesthetic look of, obviously, hair transplant?
Well, obviously, first of all, hair loss is a very, it's great to be here, by the way, but hair loss is a very, very important and outward sign of aging, right? Because hair loss, male pattern and female pattern hair loss can affect someone psychologically.
Sure.
They look and feel different about themselves when they experience hair loss. At least they could.
Absolutely.
You know, there are people who do embrace it, but for the majority of folks out there, hair loss is something that's unwanted. They don't want to see hairs falling from their head. They don't want to see more hairline recession. They don't want to see a bald spot. And so in age management, as people are tuning up their bodies, feeling better, living longer lives, more healthier lives, they want their outside appearance to exemplify that. And so hair restoration is an important piece of that puzzle, looking and feeling good.
And people can start losing their hair. It's not only menopause, as we're talking about later in life. There are people, men, women, that lose hair younger. The whole thing that just happened with Jada Pinkett Smith, right?
Absolutely.
With alopecia. And this isn't anything to do with her age. This is just another form of hair loss.
Right, so that was pretty interesting. Yes, I mean, men can experience male pattern hair loss anytime after puberty, actually, and about 20% of men in their 20s are experiencing some visible hair loss, 30% of men in their 30s, 40% of men in their 40s, and so forth. But, you know, what happened just recently is alopecia came to the forefront.
Right.
And so always the question is, well, what is alopecia? And there are many different types of alopecia, right? So it's like dizziness, vertigo. If someone says, oh, you have vertigo, that's not your diagnosis, that's a symptom, right? So alopecia is a symptom, but we have to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Was that hair loss due to hereditary causes? Is it due to some injury or trauma? Is it due to inflammation, autoimmune problems, you know? So there's a lot of different causes of alopecia. There's, you know, literally hundreds of different diagnoses potentially, but obviously we focus on the more common ones at Bauman Medical.
And so talking about Bauman Medical and bringing this back to Boston BioLife, if we're inflammation, anything internally or systemic that you're working with to help prevent or help with hair growth or prevent hair loss?
Well, absolutely. You know, a hair follicle is a very highly metabolic organ, right? It's one of the reasons why it's, first of all, valuable, right? It shows, you know, your health and your vitality and your youth. But remember that inflammation, poor diet, poor sleep, stress level, infections, all these different things can impact and turn off the hair follicle or reduce its function. So, you know, it's critical to take into a holistic account of what's going on in that person's life.
We're looking at this even at a young age, right? Because when men start losing hair, I'm going to say men because most men have male pattern baldness younger than women. You can look at this anti-aging even into their 20s, 30s, 40s. and maybe stop it before you actually need the full hair transplant?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we see about 1,500 patients per year through the door at Bauman Medical. Many of them contact us through the internet. We have virtual consultations. Many will actually come into the office for a detailed evaluation and hair loss measurement. But we know that if we catch it early enough, that we can prevent it over time. I mean, and that's the key, and that's really the key to all these anti-aging.
Right, how do you prevent hair? Everyone, if you haven't learned anything, this is key. How can you prevent hair loss?
Well, gosh, there's a lot of ways to prevent hair loss. So first, it starts with the evaluation, right? The patient's story. We want to know exactly what's going on. We look at the scalp under the microscope to actually count hairs. We have computerized microscopes today that literally count and sort hair by hair. I get a printout and a readout. It can be on the screen. Exactly how many hairs are in each different area, and it sorts them basically, good, fair, or bad. And if we can see that there's some weakening effect, some gradual miniaturization, let's say, in certain areas that are not detectable to the naked eye, well, then we got to figure out what's going on. What are those lifestyle habits that are impacting it? Maybe we look into the genomics, we look into DNA testing, and we talk to the patient. What's going on in your life? How are you sleeping? How are you eating? Do you have hair loss on your mom's side or your dad's side? Do you have brothers or sisters or aunts and uncles with hair loss? And then we start to develop, first of all, a diagnosis and then a treatment plan. So some of that treatment plan could be lifestyle changes, nutritional changes, just improving your sleep or improving your nutritional supplementation can make a big difference.
And do you have a line of supplements that you work with or you recommend?
So we do have a Bauman brand, a Bauman MD line of supplements. We call that the Nutri-Team, if you will. Some of them are, like I would say, defensive, and some of them are on the offensive side. So improving people's immunity is a defensive thing because we know that if you get sick or fever or COVID, you can lose some hair. We have offensive things, which are more like collagen replacements, specific vitamin, multivitamins, and those are all, curated specifically, medical grade nutraceuticals under the Bauman MD brand.
And you have the finasteride pills with the what's the, not Biotin, it's, what else is with your minoxidil?
Once we move past, let's say, nutrition and hair care and scalp hygiene, obviously all of that's important. Then we can get into more of the pharmaceutical things, so compound effects, and but a lot of patients want non-chemical therapy as well. So we're using red light therapy, low-level laser lights for hair regrowth. 20,000 patients over the past 15 to 20 years have been treated with red light lasers in the practice. And of course, regenerative medicine, as you know, PRP, platelet-rich plasma, and some of the newer treatments like PDO Grow, exosome therapy, stem cell therapy to get the hair follicles
and
rejuvenated.
And the mechanical part of it. You got your microneedling, all the technologies that are coming with the skin preparations, so RF microneedling, regular mechanical microneedling.
Laser,
lasers.
Invasive lasers, more cutting and burning lasers to actually make some microtrauma has also been shown to work with growth factors and things like that.
And it's not just for men. I was telling you, we were producing a show for hair restoration, hair transplant, and women losing the hair, whether it be like Jada Pinkett Smith or through hormones or thyroid disease,
maybe even
eyebrows, even things you don't think about. Everyone's so quick to do the tattoos, and you're so quick to do the micro needling, but you can do hair transplant on eyebrows also.
This is true. So Dawn, most people are amazed to learn that we've got literally 50% of our patients are women. And so female pattern hair loss, I think, can sometimes be even more devastating than male pattern hair loss. There's no socially acceptable option. That's why when Jada Pinkett Smith shaves her head, it's so dramatic. It's that Sinead O'Connor effect that you see.
Absolutely.
It's shocking, and people are taken aback.
And I think that's
that.
what Chris Rock thought. I thought she just shaved her head. I don't think he meant to be funny.
50% of your patients are female.
Yes. Yeah.
What about the transgender community?
Just skipped right over that. I guess we're
are
we avoiding
no, we can go back to that also.
50% are women. They may have a hereditary female pattern hair loss process. As you mentioned, that could be loss of eyebrows, which could be thyroid or autoimmune. Some of them are having long-term consequences from moisturizers and the nanoparticles. They're having scarring alopecia at the hairline. Some of them are seeing like a line across the top of their head from brow lift procedures and facelift procedures. So again, we have to really diagnose exactly what's going on in that particular woman's situation and then apply the appropriate therapies. Because if you think that you're applying a treatment for a hereditary hair loss to an inflammatory condition, you may not have such great success. Or again, if you're applying that non-invasive therapy to an area that's completely scarred from either hair extensions or a brow lift scar or something like that, you're not going to have great success with that either. So you need to know what you're treating.
Got to contact you. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So the best way to start if you're struggling with hair loss out there is BaumanMedical.com. You can request a virtual consultation. There are hundreds of pages of information on the website. Even if you just want to ask a question, there's a button for that, and I'll respond directly to you. But
Different shampoos, different products that you recommend. You have your own line, I'm assuming, of hair care products.
Yes, so the Bauman MD line just recently reformulated, relaunched, repackaged. We have the Boost and Soothe lines. So the Boost line is specifically for hair growth. That's a shampoo and conditioner pair. And the Soothe is specifically for people with itchy, oily, flaky, or other symptomatic scalp issues. And they can be used together. You know, you want to cool down the scalp in terms of inflammation and get that scalp healthy, like, you know, healthy soil in your garden, and then boost it up with the other treatments and procedures.
All these eyelash implants, and some people, I know some person who had a horrible reaction.
Yeah,
Do
so
some
what
of
you're
these
talking about,
supplements,
yeah,
that help with the hair growth of an eyelash?
Well, not so much supplements, but what you're talking about is eyelash extensions,
Yes.
which can be very, very damaging to the eyelid, just like the traction alopecia that you see at the scalp from the attachment of hair and hair pieces. When you attach eyelashes to your existing eyelashes, you're putting them at risk. And so there's medications like prostaglandin analogs, like bimatoprost, which is Latisse, that's FDA approved for eyelash growth. But if the follicles are dead and gone, like with the scalp, you're going to need a hair transplant. So eyelash transplantation is one of my specialties. Yes,
Ladies
I'm
and
one of the
gentlemen.
pioneers of.
I'm watching your reaction.
You don't understand
to, like,
the
we've
people
been
that
talking about
I work, Dr. Bauman, but the hormone, and you talk about so many people that we work with in the industry, and East Boca, our demographic, women that are having eye infections, Joe, and they can't see, and their retina is peeling, and
because of the
really significant damage to an eyelash extension.
For sure.
Wow.
And it's not only the aesthetic side of it, because they can't wear their eye makeup, they don't feel like they're looking beautiful, but the infection.
Yeah.
So to have a permanent
So
situation.
we have to cool down that inflammation at the eyelid, just like same approach to the scalp, right? Make sure that the eyelid is healthy before we do anything in terms of transplantation. But you know, probably one of the most interesting things about the eyelash transplant that people don't necessarily know is that eyelash transplants come with scissors. Do you know why?
They grow?
Yeah, they grow really, really long, so you have to trim them as you go. So it's not so much of a maintenance-free thing. You do have to maintain the eyelashes, sometimes curl them twice a day, maybe even perm them if you have super straight hair, but definitely.
By bringing in experts like Alan
Absolutely.
and working with technology providers and having scientists back and validate through research, peer-reviewed publications, that it is in fact possible to do this. And the more people realize that the future of medicine isn't going to come out of a bottle, it's not going to come out of a knife or a surgery, it's going to come out of regenerating your own tissue and restoring your own health and wellness.
Yeah,
And
that's
all-
been the hugest area, I think, in hair restoration.
Some influences, but it's also dragged all the ancillary things with it, like testing, like nutrition, like topicals, like all that stuff wouldn't have had the avenue that regenerative medicine created. It all came in behind because it won't work. So I like to say it's not the technique, it's not the technology, it's not the technician, it's the patient. And the quality of the patient is probably the most important part, because if they're morbidly obese, or they have other inflammatory, other comorbidities, or they don't have healthy lifestyles, your A2M injection or your hair follicle transplant or any of this stuff, let's just say it has a better chance of working if the patient is on a pathway to a less inflammatory lifestyle.
No, it's so true. What I've really learned, even from AMMG and other conferences in this sphere, is to look at the patient more holistically, to look at the patient from all of these different angles, you know, like the genomics and proteins and things like that we're looking at today, as well as these lifestyle factors, you know, and some people call it biohacking and whatnot, but you know, all of those things put together gives us a much better
biohacking
picture.
is a term that people will identify with, but they don't really understand is it's regenerative medicine.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cell biology. It's the biochemistry of the molecular logic of living systems. Why do we age? Why do we evolve? How do we react to our environment?
Well, it's a systems approach to biology, which is what we've been missing in allopathic
And we've
medicine.
been trained to think that it's too hard. Yet we're accountants, and we're lawyers, and we're computer programmers, and we fly to the moon, and we're astronauts. You can't tell me we can't figure out our own cellular.
But don't you think, like when
Mechanics.
you trained, and our generation older trained in allopathic medicine, it was...
Are you calling us old?
No.
Oh, okay.
It was the
Call me.
science. It's not like people now coming out of medical school. It was
Right.
the science behind what you were trained then.
Yeah.
The science wasn't... I don't even know if the science was done 30 years ago. But
Well,
now it's coming forward, and maybe the new physicians coming out are having a more open mind into regenerative medicine.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm allopathically trained as a surgeon, right? So, I mean, the joke was that if you couldn't suck it out, burn it out, or cut it out, then it really wasn't medicine, and we used to think that the medical guys were doing voodoo.
And it was suck it up and
But
put
there
it
are
in.
gonna be fewer side effects.
It's the N of 1 care plan, right? So everybody's their own clinical trial, and Dr. Bauman, makes it easy to understand. He provides you the tools and the resources, regardless of where you are in the pathway of losing your hair, and he actually translates that to other areas, like your wigs that you make. He makes the most. He has access to the most incredible hair pieces.
Wow.
They're made in Italy, right?
Yeah, so those are.
I was in the wig room.
Yeah,
and I
so
couldn't believe
so
it.
we don't call them wigs because they're not wigs. These are cranial
Straighteners and
right. So the virgin hair has never been processed by
Bleach.
heat or chemicals
Right.
or color. So yeah, it's amazingly beautiful and thick hair, and that's implanted into that cranial prosthetic, literally one hair at a time. So almost microsurgically, are these technicians in the factory in Bologna at CR Labs. My good friend Stefano Ospitali over there
it's
is
amazing.
creating beautiful things. So 250 man-hours of work go into each cranial prosthetic that we deliver to our
And I think,
folks in Boca Raton.
as a sidelight, it's one thing to lose your hair and care about it. It's not necessarily life-threatening, but you have people with these horrible conditions where they don't have hair, they have cancer, whatever, and these tools that he has
Absolutely.
really restore their sense of dignity. It gives them a sense of wellness and completeness, and that is very important.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
After treatment and everything, you want to feel whole again, 100%.
If you take a step back from all this amazing technology that we put together at this at our 12,000 square foot hair hospital, it's really only comes down to just changing that person's life, making them look good
Making
and
them feel
feel
better.
great, and so they have a life-changing experience from regrowing their hair. That's the most important thing.
For patients' wellness and psychology, everything for hair loss, so much of it is how you feel about yourself. Dr. Bauman, thank you so much. You can contact him. He's at 1450 South Dixie Highway, right next door to WNN, or BaumanMedical.com. Joe, we're going to take a quick break, see who you've got coming up next. Dr.
Alan,
Bauman, thank
thanks
you
much
so
for all you
much.
do. It was
No,
fun,
it's great.
and we'll have
And
you,
we'll be right back.
We'll see you at the social.
Creative, enchanting, whimsical. Artist Gina Bella is always creating artwork based on real stories and emotions, expressed through Italian papers, paints, flowers, metals, and clay. Her feelings and stories come to life. Complete with glittery diamond dust over paintings and pottery, Gina Bella is always creating new pieces and commissions. You can find her work in staging homes, family Christian bookstores, New Jersey boats. Gina can also be found hosting weekend art camps, where she teaches adults and children pottery, painting, and jewelry. For more information on Gina Bella and her art, contact livinglifeartfully@gmail.com